You want to know the wildest thing that ever happened to me in suburbia? Picture this. I come home from a 12-hour shift, expecting nothing but peace, maybe leftovers and some bad late-night TV, and instead, I find a stranger's SUV idling inside my garage like it's her own personal parking spot. And get this, she looks up at me, clipboard in hand, all calm and official, and says, "Move your car. This garage is HOA property now." You ever have a moment so surreal you have to check if you're awake? Yeah, that happened. It wasn't a mistake. It was Patricia Hart, the neighborhood's self-appointed queen of the HOA Safety Committee. White polo shirt crisp as a new dollar, fake emergency sticker on the windshield, pin tapping like she was waiting for me to start clapping for her. Performance. She told me, totally deadpan, gas safety audit. Emergency program. I'd lived here almost a decade, never heard a word about any pilot program, and suddenly this woman's acting like my house is a public utility. At first, I just stood there, trying to process what I was seeing, my own stuff, my workbench, all shadowed in exhaust smoke, while Patricia pointed out my water heater like she was giving a museum tour. That's when I spotted it. A gray box wired into the wall, blue LED blinking, new screws biting into fresh paint. "What's that?" I asked. She didn't even flinch. "Emergency access device. It's for safety." She actually tried to explain how this gave her committee access to my garage during emergencies. Never mind that nobody asked me, and I never signed a thing. So I started snapping pictures, every detail, fresh drill marks, new wiring, some little antenna poking up like a spy gadget. Patricia doubled down, quoting HOA agreement sections like a defense lawyer, rattling off community safety and declared emergencies, as if any of it gave her the right to break into my house. I was still piecing things together when the red and blue lights flashed at the curb. Officer Mark Lewis walking up, calm and official, scanning the scene like he'd walked into an episode of Dateline. "Got a call about a break-in," he said, scanning Patricia me. The mystery box, the whole scene. Patricia jumped right in with her script. Emergency gas inspection, pilot program. All by the book, she claimed. But you know that feeling when a cop's body cam is running and you realize every word counts? That was my moment of clarity. Mark asked, "Did you authorize access to your garage?" I told him, "Absolutely not," and pointed out the box. He took a good look, reading labels and noting the slick wiring, then asked Patricia who authorized this. She hesitated, just for a second, and in that gap, I saw the real story. She was winging it, hoping the badge and the clipboard would carry her through. Then Mark said something that flipped the script. "Ma'am, I need to see the official authorization for this device. Any permits or warrants for emergency entry?" Patricia's face tightened. She fished out a little black remote labeled Safety Chair Emergency Override. And suddenly, it was crystal clear. This wasn't just about my garage. This was about someone in my neighborhood, holding the keys to dozens of private doors. The kicker? That night, I get an email. "Welcome to the Emergency Gas Safety Pilot Program. Effective immediately, all residents are now part of an emergency access scheme. No consent required." Bureaucratic language. Auto-enrollment for everyone within a mile radius. I called Rebecca, my neighbor, a forensic accountant with a sixth sense for scams. She'd gotten the same email, and when I told her what happened in my garage, she showed up in minutes, examining the box with the same attention she used for white-collar crime. Together, we walked the neighborhood. What we found was chilling, identical boxes installed on house after house, some even outside our HOA's jurisdiction. Turns out, Patricia had orchestrated a full-on surveillance grid, all disguised as community safety. The pattern was deliberate, systematic. When we knocked on doors, most folks thought the boxes were utility upgrades. Nobody had been told what they really were. Rebecca tracked everything: addresses, device locations, HOA or not. "This isn't safety," she said. "It's infrastructure for control." And just like that, the story went from weird neighbor drama to potential criminal conspiracy. Even the installation company got nervous. When I called, their text said Patricia had ordered nearly 70 of these things, but never sent in a single signed consent form. She kept telling them it was all handled through HOA admin. The installer looked scared, like he realized he'd been set up as the fall guy if things blew up. So we took our findings to the fire department. Because if any of this was real, they'd have the paperwork, right? Chief Martinez, stone-faced and no-nonsense. Checked every record. Nothing. No emergency access program. No official request. Zero coordination. She even printed an official statement saying so. Black and white proof Patricia's authority was. Smoke and mirrors. You'd think that would end it. But Patricia doubled down, showing up at the station just as we were leaving, still spinning her story about community leadership and necessary. Called 911 the day she broke in, claiming to find me unresponsive during her inspection when I was actually at work. She falsified an emergency to justify her trespassing. Now, it wasn't just an HOA squabble. It was potentially criminal. By the time our administrative hearing rolled around, I'd gathered it all: security footage, police reports, vendor emails, fire department statements. Officer Mark testified. Patricia tried her old tricks, but the evidence crushed every excuse. She was found personally liable for every unauthorized device, every emergency call, every legal cost, over 30 grand in damages, and banned from the HOA board for 5 years. The fallout was immediate. The board rushed to change all safety policies, making consent mandatory for everything. The installer revamped their protocols, too. No more jobs without ironclad authorization. And the best part? We used part of Patricia's penalty check to buy new playground equipment for the neighborhood, turning her mess into something the whole community could enjoy. That's justice with a cherry on top. Patricia moved out a few months later, head low, reputation in shambles. And the story followed her. When she tried her act in another state, people were ready. My documentation helped stop her cold. Now, our community's sharper, more vigilant, and honestly, a lot closer. People talk, ask questions, demand transparency. The sign by my garage reads, "Emergency isn't a master key." And if you ask me, that's the heart of it. Safety means boundaries, not blind access. Authority has limits, and sometimes you have to fight for them, even when it makes you the unpopular neighbor. So what would you do if someone claimed your garage for the greater good? Would you let it slide, or stand your ground? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button if you think property rights matter. And if you've got your own wild HOA stories, I want to hear them. Don't forget to subscribe, because you never know what's waiting in your own garage at the end of a long day. You know, after all that, after Patricia packed up and left, after the new safety committee took over and we all thought life might actually get back to normal, there was this uneasy quiet in the neighborhood, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see if things would really porch and keep to themselves, suddenly wanted to chat. We'd stand out in the driveway, looking at that spot where Patricia's gray box used to be, talking about everything from property rights to how the HOA needed a total reset. Honestly, it was kind of healing. The whole mess had brought folks together, made them realize how easy it is for one person with too much power to start running the show, no matter what the rules say. Then something happened that took the whole saga to another level. A letter showed up in my mailbox, no return address, just my name and a local postmark. Inside was a photocopy of an email chain, the kind of thing you see in whistleblower movies. Turns out, Patricia hadn't just set up her little safety program. In our community, she'd been shopping the same scheme to 2 other HOAs in the county, and this time, people had started comparing notes. The letter came from a group of homeowners in a neighboring subdivision, folks who'd seen our news, found my contact info from the hearing paperwork, and wanted help stopping Patricia before she could get a foothold on their block. They shared copies of her emails, same pitch, same pilot program, just a new name on the paperwork. Community resilience, rapid emergency response, opt in for your own good. You could practically see the Control+C, Control+V all over her script. Only now, word had gotten out, and these neighbors weren't about to let someone drill mystery boxes into their garage walls without a fight. They'd heard what happened in our neighborhood and wanted to know how we shut her down. Let me back up a sec, because if you've never been the guy who gets asked for advice after surviving an HOA war, let me tell you, it's a weird feeling. I was just trying to protect my own house, but suddenly, I was getting invited to other people's kitchens, looking at paperwork, explaining how to file complaints, who to talk to at City Hall, and what evidence to collect. Rebecca came with me more than once, and together we sort of fell into the role of neighborhood consultants, unofficial, but a whole lot more trusted than the old board. There was this one family, new to the area, 2 little kids, moving into a starter home. And the first thing the HOA president handed them wasn't a casserole or a welcome basket, but a stack of forms for the neighborhood. Emergency access registry. The dad called me, frustrated, asking, "Is this really normal here?" All I could do was laugh and tell him, "Buddy, nothing about that is normal. You've got to read every line before you sign anything. And if they ever try to install anything without your say-so, call me before you call anyone else." And that's when it hit me. The real legacy of Patricia's whole power. Trip wasn't the hearing, or the $30,000 penalty, or even the new playground. It was this culture of vigilance that popped up, neighbors sharing information, watching out for each other, and actually reading the fine print. The board meetings got crowded for the first time in years. People who'd never voted on anything started showing up, asking pointed questions, challenging the new committee to prove everything was on the level. You could see the panic on the faces of anyone hoping to slip something through. Suddenly, community leadership meant accountability, not just bossing people around. Twist is, about 2 months after Patricia left, I got a call from the county attorney's office. Apparently, she'd tried her act at one more neighborhood. But this time, residents were so well prepared, they'd gathered documentation, called law enforcement, and nipped her plan in the bud before a single box went up. The attorney wanted to use my case as a model for prosecuting similar HOA abuses, turning my garage disaster into a kind of public service announcement for property rights. Never thought my little slice of suburban drama would end up helping people countywide. But hey, you know what they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. The best part, though, was how our own HOA finally turned a corner. The new board, stung by all the embarrassment, rewrote the rules from scratch. Now, every emergency access request needs 2/3 homeowner approval and sign-off from both the fire department and local police. The vendor that installed all those boxes, they started demanding signed, notarized consent for every job. No more hand-waving. No more pilot programs. You'd be amazed how fast things change when a whole neighborhood decides it's done being pushed around. Some nights, Elena and I sit on the back porch, sipping coffee, watching the sun go down behind the line of rooftops. I still keep the override remote from Patricia's fiasco mounted in a shadow box next to the garage entrance. A reminder, that no matter how slick someone sounds, no matter how official their papers look, your rights don't disappear just because somebody's good at making up rules. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about Patricia, where she ended up, whether she learned anything, or if she's still out. They're trying to sell safety as a smokescreen for control. But then I look around, at the playground we built, the neighbors who wave when they walk by, the sign on my garage door that says emergency isn't a master key, and I realize it doesn't matter. We learned the lesson. We drew our lines. And from now on, if anyone tries to cross them, they're going to find a whole community standing in their way. So, if you've ever been steamrolled by an HOA, or had someone try to tell you your own house isn't really yours, yeah, I get it. Stand your ground, document everything, and remember, community isn't just a word. It's the people willing to look out for each other, not just the folks who want to be in charge. And if you got this far, drop your story in the comments. Tell me about your own HOA horror or neighborhood win. Smash that like button if you think standing up matters. Subscribe if you want more true tales from the front lines of suburbia, and whatever you do, don't hand over your keys without a fight.